joined by the director of the Afghan Human Rights Foundation, Mohammad Asif. Mohammad, thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. This, of course, is going to be a problem for the government if it becomes a domino effect of hotels being rejected by councils across the country.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, asylum seekers did not ask for hotels. I work with asylum seekers almost 10 hours a day or 11 hours a day, and none of the asylum seekers are happy in the hotel. All they want is, some sort of shelter accommodation, community-based accommodation, where they can live and rebuild their life and contribute to the society. But it's not their choice. It is the government choice, whether they were the Tories or the Labour or whoever government of the day in power. They kept them there, away from communities, not allowed to work, confined to that hotel 24 hours a day, receiving £9 a week, which is not even enough in London or surrounding areas for one-way bus ticket. So it's not their choice, it's the government choice. And asylum seekers have to pay the price for it.
Do you think that undocumented and unvetted men who've crossed into this country illegally should just be allowed to work in this country from day one and should just be put into housing from day one at the cost of the British taxpayer?
First of all, look at it this way, because whoever come into Britain, they have every right to claim asylum. That is under the Geneva Convention. And if Britain doesn't like it, they should just simply withdraw from the convention and say, look, we got nothing to do with asylum seekers or refugee crisis around the world. They should just withdraw from the convention. So when the media, including your channel and, the Tories in Nigel Farage and others comes on TV and say, these are illegal. Once you are in this country, you applied for asylum and you are fingerprinted by the Home Office. Your, photos is taken, your fingerprints are taken on the day you arrive. So it's not that you are undocumented. The moment you arrive, you step in on British shore, then you're fingerprinted within 24 hours. Your photo is taken, and they give you a piece of paper that who you are and which country you come from.
Well, hang on, that doesn't mean that we know. That doesn't mean that we know their criminal record potentially. That doesn't mean we even know where they've come from.
But a lot of asylum seekers or refugees are coming like the countries where Britain invaded them. Forced illegal invasion.
Well, hang on, we're jumping around here. We're jumping around. Mohammed, do you believe that illegal migration exists? Because what you're essentially saying is that anyone who rocks up in this country by irregular means and claims asylum is therefore legal, essentially. Okay. So do you believe that there is something called illegal migration?
Every legal expert in this country is calling for safe routes in this country, where every single safe route is shut by the British government. Then you have no choice except to put yourself at risk in the hands of smugglers who are, brutal individual or organization.
Well, you do have a choice. You could go to a different country.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
I want to pick you up on something you said earlier, though, Mohammed, if I may.
Let me give you an example. A brutal regime from the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
If I'm running away from Taliban, my life is at risk, and I stood with the British forces, for example. There is no legal route for me available. So
well, there was.
There wasn't.
In 2021, when the Taliban took over Afghanistan, there was the Arab scheme. And the Arab scheme
shut down.
took no longer, absolutely, because we're 4 years later. We're 4 years after the Taliban. If they've been living in Afghanistan for the last 4 years, and the Taliban haven't.
I'm saying, let me say this. You see, Britain was in Afghanistan for 20 years or so. They destabilized the country. They occupied the country for 20 years. After 20 years of war, failed war and fair policies in Afghanistan and other countries, they just washed their hands and ran away 3 o'clock in the morning and left the Afghan people in the hands of Taliban. So that's not the way you handle things.
The withdrawal was, of course, dreadful and instigated by the United States. But we did set up a very generous Afghan refugee scheme. It was called Arab. We had thousands upon thousands of Afghans moved to this country. But it was a time-limited scheme, and it has now closed.
People who stood with Britain against the so-called terrorists in Afghanistan, they're still lingering in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. Not everyone was brought here. And the Arab scheme is shut down just now.
Yes.
There are people who are the Arab scheme.
But of course, Mohammed, you would accept that if there are Afghans who have, for example, found a place to live in Europe in the last couple of years and then want to come across to the United Kingdom, they are already safe in a place like France or Germany or Italy or Spain.
Let me tell you this. Britain has ruled for maybe 300 years or 400 years, the subcontinent, Africa, and many, many other countries. People have a lot of links to Britain, to the United Kingdom.
Yeah, many millions of people do.
Mohammed, you're essentially saying, Mohammed, that anyone from Afghanistan who wants to come to this country should be able to.
Britain is think about the cause of the problems. Britain government, when I say Britain, I refer to the government.
I'm sorry, Britain is not responsible for all the problems in Afghanistan. I'm sorry, that is just not true.
All the problems in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in Yemen, in Sudan, in Somalia, in Eritrea. Britain is actively promoting.
No. Britain is responsible for the problems, quote unquote problems, in Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada. Why is it that some countries that Britain colonised are now some of the most successful and rich parts of the world, and others are not? I mean, you can't say that the places in the world that have been haven't been living under British governance for decades and have run their countries poorly. Why is that Britain's fault?
The particular issue in this country, the particular issue is, the far right and the racists, instigated by the Tories, Nigel Farage, and some others in this country, who comes 24/7, dragging every asylum seekers and refugees in this country and blaming them for every problem in this society. Asylum seeker did not cause the cost of living crisis in this country. They did not cause the petrol crisis, the inflation crisis, the mortgage crisis. These are the day-to-day government. What the government does is they're quite happy with this, the Tories or the Labour, putting the poor people against poor. And then they enjoy it. They wash their hands from the problem and they enjoy it.
OK, well, it's strong view, strongly held, clearly. Mohammad Asif, thank you very much for your time, Director of the Afghan Human Rights Foundation. Oof.
No, interesting stuff. Of course, do get involved, gbnews.com/your say. But in the response to this ruling that we were kicking off the conversation talking about, the Border Security Minister, Dame Angela Eagle, said that the government will continue working with local authorities and communities to address legitimate concerns, and work continues to close all asylum hotels by the end of the Parliament. However,
the Home Office has also expressed some concern at the Bell Hotel injunction, claiming it runs the risk of acting as an impetus for further violent protests.
Time with the Great British